Welcome to the Hearing Wellness Journey podcast, an exploration of determination, hope, self-discovery, and triumph. We'll share the personal experiences of those that are living with hearing loss and provide a haven for their stories to show others that they are not alone in this journey. Your hosts, Dr. Dawn Heiman and Lindsey Doherty.
Hello, Linda. Thank you so much for coming. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from?
Originally from New England, born in Connecticut. My dad was a pilot, so we actually moved quite a bit when I was growing up. Went to college in Boston. I had been working for McDonald's for quite a few years, even at that point. And when I graduated, I worked for them in store management and then took a career transfer to the corporate office in Oak Brook. So that's how I ended up in Chicago, got married, 2 kids, and many years later, here I am.
Excellent. And was your family ever affected by hearing loss when you were growing up? Do you remember anyone?
I don't have clear memory of that. I had a couple, first of all, my father was the baby of 11. And so I do remember his parents, but not from a hearing loss standpoint. My mother's mother died very young, so I had a step-grandmother. She lived into her 90s, but I think her hearing was pretty good. And then, unfortunately, my mom died young. And then my dad, he was 78, but I think his hearing was pretty good. We didn't see him that often. But yeah, so no real memories.
So at what point did you realize that something was going on with you?
It was probably at least about 5 years ago. And I noticed both my husband and I, what'd you say? So the two of us going back and forth. And I was still working at the time. And I think I realized, even at the office, having to ask people, what did you say? Or did I hear you right?
And did you initially seek out help or did you resist seeking out help? How did that?
I felt I would go get tested. I felt my husband should have been tested at the time, but he wasn't going. So I thought, well, I'll just go get tested, and see what's happening.
And so what happened? Was it when you went for the hearing evaluation, what was that like? Was there any aha moment or anything that was eye-widening to you?
Of course, the interesting thing is almost like going to the eye doctor. If you haven't been wearing glasses and you go to the eye doctor, I can see. Of course I can see. And then you put glasses on. You're like, oh, that's what that is. So it was the same thing with hearing because I can hear. I don't have any issues. And then you see the hearing test and then you see the results and you're like, oh, I guess I don't hear that well. But I went to an ear, nose, and throat doctor at the time because I had seen him before about other issues. And he sold hearing aids in his office. So I spoke to his technicians, but they were so super expensive. So at that point, I felt I had the testing and I had some information about aids, but at the time, I did not purchase it.
So how long did you wait before you sought out another option?
I would say it was about a year and a half. And I had I'd been a member of the Oak Brook Park District. And I think in one of their flyers or a mailing or something, I had seen your name. And then that's how I went to your office. But that was probably about a year and a half later.
So a year and a half. So you went back to the office after you saw an ENT, knowing that there maybe is a problem. And did you do anything to try to strategize or let people know, I'm not really hearing so great, but I'm not really ready yet? Did the conversation happen with anyone? Did you tell anybody?
My husband. Yeah, but
so
nobody else really.
Yeah. And did you start to realize that there was more and more of a struggle now that you're aware, or it was just about the same? Some people you hear and some you don't.
It was about the same. Yeah. Until I got hearing aids. And it's like, oh.
So when you were finally ready, you made the appointment, you came in for the evaluation. I know you saw one of my former colleagues. And with that, how did it go? What was that first day? Did she offer you to try hearing aids that day?
Oh, yeah. Yep. It was like, okay, let's just do it. and I don't know if it was a 30-day trial or something like that. So it was a while ago now. I think 2017. So yeah, and actually it was amazing because they're very easy to use. So it's not like you have to learn a whole lot. You just plug them in. And I remember going to the ladies' room and I could hear the crunch of the paper towels. And it was like, it was wild. Oh, I hear sounds that I didn't used to hear before. It was really, like you say, the aha. Oh, yeah. And so it was a good thing.
That's cool. So then when you got home, or even in your car, do you remember having anything at home where you're walking around going, this is my house, but you had to ask your husband, do you hear that? Do you hear that? What was it like that first week with the hearing aids on?
Having to turn things down, like the radio in the car and the television, and just not having to have things at such a volume you did before. But day to day, not like a huge shift.
Were you still working at that point?
The funny thing is, I remember having a conversation with the doctor about the fact that I wore a headset at work.
Mm.
And she was thinking there was going to have to be some kind of adjustment because of the headset. And then the wild thing was I actually left that position. So about the same time. So it hasn't been an issue at this point.
Cool. Now, were you ever worried that if I get hearing aids, everyone's going to know it and I don't know if I want to do this? Did you ever have this like internal struggle about doing something? Never.
No. First of all, I got, the hair. Unless I cut my hair really short, you can't even see them. I had a friend recently, this is now 3 years out, tell me, oh, I didn't know you had hearing aids. They're so, like, they're there, but they're not there. And sometimes I don't even realize I have them on. And frankly, I really don't care because I want to hear. I know how important that is, especially as you age, to be able to hear things, understand people, join in conversations, not have to ask, what did you say? What did you say? Oh, can you say that again? So there really was no hesitation, really, on my part.
That's awesome. So do you think, in your opinion, that there's a negative stigma around hearing loss?
Yeah, I do. And people don't want to address it. I also think cost is prohibitive for a lot of people. And I wish there was some way that it could be addressed through insurance or what have you, because I think that's a big barrier for a lot of people.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are afraid to have that conversation, or there are places that only sell them for really expensive.
Right.
And
Right.
so if they don't know that there are very good, cheaper options available, now they're not going to have all the bells and whistles, but there are payment plans. And now in Illinois, there are quite a few insurances that pay up to $5,000 every 2 years towards hearing aids.
Wow, well, that's
Yeah,
a
if
good
you have
plan.
United Healthcare Hearing, it's like the AARP Medicare Advantage program. If you're a retired teacher, if you worked for the airlines, there are some really good programs.
Yeah, I don't think people are aware or informed.
Right, they hear a bad story and then assume it's going to be the same way for them.
They do require, you have to be careful with them. As I found out with the whole mask wearing this past year, because they're small, they're little, they're light. You're like checking, oh, are they here? Oh, yeah, good. So there is some attendance that has to be paid.
Right. So I think some people, if whether it's an excuse or it's a valid point, some people will say, I can't handle one more thing to have to take care of. How many minutes a day do you think you use to manage your hearing aids?
2.
Exactly.
It's pretty fast.
Right?
Yes, you just have to be conscious.
Correct.
It's this conscious effort. Replace the batteries, clean them off a little with that little brush before you use them. Even taking them out. Sometimes I'll go to bed and I'll forget I had them on. So you want to take them out, make sure you don't run out the battery.
Yeah.
It's not a big time commitment.
In a sense, it's like contact lenses minus the batteries. If you put it in right in the morning, you're not going to worry about it falling out all day long and constantly trying to correct what you rushed in the morning. But once you put them on, they're pretty solid all day long. And then, you go to bed and you have to remember, oops, I got to take these out.
Yeah. I think it's the same.
Yeah. Cool. Are there ever discussions that you have with people that you know they're struggling and they maybe don't want to go there? They don't talk about their hearing loss. What do you say to these people or this person?
Pointing to the person. My husband, yes. He's actually gone to get testing, but has not taken the next step.
He's not ready.
It'd be good. It'd be so good. Everything I read, everything you see, again, about healthy aging, maybe it's a little different for someone in their 30s or 40s. I don't know. I think it'll still be good to hear. But as you're aging, to have hearing loss, I think is extremely detrimental to your health, especially cognitive.
Cognitive for sure. Compliance with if you're put on a new medication, you have to be able to hear the instructions properly. Otherwise, you could end up in the emergency room because you didn't take it as often or maybe too often.
Sure.
Yeah. Hearing for safety reasons that someone's breaking into your house,
All of that.
So there is a process in accepting hearing loss and just maybe accepting a death in the family or something that you weren't expecting, or even the parents go through it if their child is born with a hearing loss. And the first step is usually denial.
Right.
And some people can stay in that denial stage for years. Right. Sometimes it's weeks. And then they can go into the stage of anger. Why me? And then eventually we hope they get to the point where they're like, okay, I'm exhausted. I'm tired of having excuses or being angry. I'm ready. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. So empowering people with information about if you get over this hump, your life will be so much easier and happier. If you say, I'm worth it. Healthier. Yeah. You get to just sit back and relax and enjoy a movie. You get to be in the conversation with your friends. And when they're telling a joke, you hear the entire joke. It is healthier. It reduces your blood pressure. It improves your brain function. You're learning new things.
Exactly.
I know he's listening. So this is not easy. And I'm glad that you're talking about this and that he is even here, because there will be others that are listening to this podcast that they're not sure where they're at in their journey. At what point is it bad enough? Or some people are identified at one age and then they, for whatever reason, stop using the hearing aids. And then because they were frustrated or they gave up or embarrassed, who knows what. But we want people to realize that the stigma, what other people think about you, is just an imaginary mind block. And once you do something, you are happier.
Yeah, definitely. When you commit, yeah.
When you commit, when you're ready. And then people walk in my office sometimes like angry. You can tell they're frustrated. They're not there because of themselves. They don't want to be there. When they leave, they're like dancing out and so excited and plotting about who they're not going to tell that they're wearing hearing aids, but they're going to make sure that they hear those conversations.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But I think the whole stigma has to do with really the whole aging period. Older and maybe not doing all the things you used to do and having white hair and just the ageism that exists.
I think you bring up a very valid point. It's not just the hearing. It's maybe mourning the change in your body.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's hard to embrace change, but even more so if it's a change that you're not ready for.
Well, and you really have no control over, and it's not necessarily going to get better, and you can't pop a pill.
Right.
And so it's more mechanical to deal with.
It is mechanical. And the irony is the sooner that you do something, the more it is like you popped a pill, because it does work. It does make you happier and actually acting younger.
Right.
You don't want to be that guy sitting in the corner that's not following the conversation, that's not smiling, that is assuming everyone's laughing at him
You can't
because you
engage.
don't know what they said. You want to be the guy that jumps in and goes, oh yeah, guess what? And is in the conversation and is just as witty and smart as you've always been.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what is your favorite part about hearing like paper towels? What are some of the sounds that you actually love with your hearing aids on that you don't hear when you take them off?
Probably more like nature sounds, birds, just wind and rustling leaves, and maybe the more subtle things that you wouldn't necessarily pick up on. Music.
Music is so good for your brain. Did you know that they've done studies where they put electrodes on people's heads and did functional MRI so they're awake for the MRI? And music is the only thing that lights up your entire brain at once.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. It's so stimulating. It can instantly transport you in time. It can elicit memories. It's just so powerful. So if you can have your world all day long, even if it's a quiet time where you're reading or you're doing laundry and you hate doing laundry, turn on music and it does more for your brain. It enhances the experience.
Yeah. Unless you have the blasting, then it is not enhancing.
Yeah.
And you have your hearing aids on.
Everything in moderation. Even though you love Brussels sprouts, you should not eat a pound of them, right? Yeah. Don't overindulge in your music. But if it gets you up dancing, hey, that's a good thing. Yeah. So of all the things that we talked about today, what would be one thing that is like the one takeaway that you want people to know?
I was thinking of that Nike ad, just do it. I know it's hard for people to just automatically give up hang-ups or hesitations, but what have I read? I think I saw a saying the other day recently that kind of struck home just about things in general, and it was about thinking that something's impossible until you do it. And that's, jump in. Yeah, really critical to your overall being.
I think it's true. Just do it. And just because one person had a bad experience doesn't mean you will. Just because one person had a bad experience swimming once doesn't mean you will. We're all different.
And make an appointment with you, of course.
Oh, yeah, that's not why we're doing this, actually.
I know.
So the point of this podcast is to try to get the stories out there. This does not exist anywhere. I have checked. I've done my research. I keep double checking. There are no podcasts where people tell their hearing loss stories.
That's so cool.
Yes. So you may or may not know, so my youngest has type 1 diabetes. There are a couple type 1 podcasts where people are coming on and they're telling their child's story, they're telling their personal story, they're the doctor telling stories, and it is so comforting. It doesn't make his diabetes go away. It doesn't make his equipment stop suddenly breaking or hiccups happening, but it gives me a sense of community. It gives me a sense of I'm not in this alone as a parent. In they also have some really cool tips and tricks that people, life hacks that they've created, or they said, hey, you know what? Try strawberries or a banana right before they go out on the soccer field. Is there any tip or trick that you found?
That's a good question. Having them super handy. You don't want to put them away or lock them under key or just, they have to be like right there. Now, some days I'm going to the pool. I'm not wearing them to the pool. But then when I come home, I have to try and remember to put them on. So just having them, present and with batteries.
With the batteries.
Yeah. Get your battery.
Definitely. That's right.
Check your battery.
I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your openness and willing to share your story. It's not easy to get on camera. It's not easy to be vulnerable. But I think you're going to help a lot of people because they might not be ready yet, but it was comforting for someone like you that is so kind and beautiful and normal and nice, and to come on here and they can say, you know what, I'm just like her. I think it's going to be okay.
It is. And maybe people, I feel like I had a pretty easy transition. There might be people with other medical kinds of conditions but if you get a good doctor, it should be good.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank
You
you.
guys have a wonderful day, and
Too.
hopefully it starts to heat up outside. I think it is going to
Nice.
be beautiful soon. Yes.
Holiday weekend.
Yay. And if you need me or anything, just ask. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, doctor.
Bye.
Take care. Bye now.
You too.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Hearing Wellness Journey podcast. For more information about what we do and the services we provide, please visit our website at hearingwellnessjourney.com/podcast, where you can find more resources based on today's discussion, as well as request to be a member of our Hearing Wellness Journey community on Facebook. That's available for our listeners exclusively on hearingwellnessjourney.com/podcast.